Final hour OverDrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Our best bets later in the hour. Brian Boyle coming up. Dan Woike of the LA Times with LeBron in town. It sounds as if LeBron and Anthony Davis are game-time decisions, but the Lakers head coach...
Aren't they every night?
Exactly, and Darvin Ham basically said, I'm feeling good about them playing. In other words, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You're playing, and this is the thing. Like, if you're a Raptor fan, it's been a grind lately to go watch this team play.
13 in a row, man.
Yeah, they've lost 13 in a row, and in many of those games, they've been crushed. Like, not just losing, they're getting
41
crushed.
44, yeah.
You anticipate they lose tonight. Barrett's back, Quickly's back. I guess they'll be on a minute restriction. Not sure why. Like, I know they haven't played in a while, but they've been practicing, working out. They're veterans.
Right.
That would speak to a tank. You know, if things are going a little bit too well, we got to get them out.
Yeah.
But if you got a ticket to tonight, it's not about the Raptors. It's about going to see LeBron play.
Yeah.
And Anthony Davis by extension. But you're only going to get so many of these. Like, it may be the last time we see him in Toronto. You never know. Even if he plays 3 or 4 more years, he may just skip the game in Toronto. He's going to have load management. He's going to get injured.
As much as he loves the spotlight, Hayes, it would not shock me if he is the one guy that pulls a surprise retirement. Like, he would look in a camera after his last game, possibly this year, and say, that could be it. Maybe it's over. Because I know he loves the spotlight, and I know he said he wants to play until this and play with Bronny, but he's talked about being old and going home to his wife and blah, blah, blah. He could just shut it down, man.
No way. This guy he likes the attention too much. He will go on the full 1 year goodbye tour.
I agree. I'd be shocked
people will be giving him motorcycles.
You think that he needs the goodbye tour?
100%. It's not about the gifts he's going to get.
I hate the goodbye tour.
He's going to get. Didn't Kobe do it? Who did the goodbye tour?
Oh yeah, Kobe.
Jeter did it.
Jeter did it. Rivera did it.
They're all going to do the
Cabrera.
goodbye, and rightfully so. Like,
I bet you
Jeter
Jeter put $10 million worth of gifts, goodbye gifts. Yes.
No.
$10 million worth of gifts on his goodbye
those
tour
were
in his
Rolexes.
garage.
He was getting motorcycles. Where did he get?
He does like a gift basket. Jeter does like a gift basket. That is reasonable to suggest.
It is. He got one great big gift basket from the league on the way out. Basically.
I wonder if he re-gifted any of those.
Oh, he might have.
You think he re-gifted any of his gift baskets?
For sure.
Thanks for coming over. Here's a seat to the Rogers Center. Autographed by the PR staff.
Yeah. Well, remember Miguel Cabrera last year was in Oakland and they gave him a bottle of like wine that was $80 American.
Yeah.
That's still one of my favorite stories that someone on the PR side totally forgot. Go find a bottle of wine. What do we have? We have this bottle of Camus.
Where was that? That was Oakland.
That was in Oakland, of course.
Out the door, that Jeter.
Oh, Jeter was something else, man.
He handed out some neat tricks, I'll tell you that.
We'll never see another. Well, we probably will see another Jeter, but it's a different world now, a different era. Like his dating game was just off the charts, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was well publicized.
It was very well because he was dating celebrities and supermodels, and
he was on page 6 once a week
all
in
the
New
time.
York, seen with this supermodel, the scene with this person.
Yeah.
Like,
you're the man in New York, and you're a Yankee.
He just had it going on. He was having a good time.
Yeah, the number one bachelor in New York.
I mean, he's allowed to do that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
He's single and enjoying
adults
himself.
And everything's consensual and having a good time.
Up his sleeve on the way out the door.
Yeah, he would, man. He had some proposals.
Snake.
He had a proposal or two up his sleeve.
Yeah.
He was quite something, that Derek Jeter. Yeah. But now he's a happily married man. I think he's got some kids. He's not the owner down in Florida anymore.
Is he still
or with
tied
Miami.
into
No, I think he divested that. I think he's out.
Yeah,
but
he's out. And it was ugly while he was there, too.
Yeah, it was really ugly. Really ugly.
I don't know what those guys, the superstar players, think about that, but it's like you can't go into that and have it go like that because then everyone's like, come on, Jeter. Mm-hmm. Like, you're ruining the Jeter brand.
It's like Jordan. When Jordan, the owner in Charlotte, it was a mess. He was an awful owner.
Yeah,
That's the greatest player ever. He was a terrible owner.
Yeah.
And Jeter, the same thing in Miami. You're taking a gamble.
Take some shine off your brand.
Well, I mean, you get
Jordan's
into ownership.
a different level, but it takes a dent. It takes a dent out of the aura.
Yeah, especially if it's a team that you're not affiliated with. Like, it was the Miami Marlins. Jeter's from Michigan, and he was a Yankee.
I know.
What is your association?
Other than the fact that you like Florida.
Like, Jeter's got to take a job, special assistant to Cashman. Right. That's his job.
You want to do something big, go back to the Yankees.
Special assistant to Cashman.
You know what I thought about this, though, yesterday? I was playing with my son. We were playing catch. My son was wearing an Air Jordan T-shirt.
Yeah, they're
this
everywhere.
Guy is everywhere. My son is 6. And I looked it up. Jordan's worth like $3 billion, like something ridiculous.
Oh, billions
$3
and
billion.
billions. He made a fortune off that sale too.
Yeah.
Of the Hornets. Like, he bought in, a couple $100 million, and the difference was he was the owner.
Right.
It wasn't like, I'll get 1% and here's 50 grand.
His thing.
It was like, I'm making money. It's like Lemieux in Pittsburgh, the same thing. Mario made a fortune on that.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, he sold it for billions, and he's worth billions. And you're right, Air Jordan is still the premium sports brand, and it will never be topped. And he hasn't played in 20 years.
Crazy. Like, my son was 6. He's wearing an Air Jordan T-shirt.
It's everywhere, man. It's everywhere.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. All right, Dan Woike of the LA Times later in the hour. Our best bet still to come. Leafs back in action with Tampa in town tomorrow. Here's a guy that's familiar with both teams, doing work with the NHL Network, former Leaf, joining us on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Here's Brian Boyle. What's happening, Brian?
Fellas, how we doing?
We're doing very well. Very well, man. You feeling ready to go now that we're into April? Like, how would you describe the next 2 weeks for you? Is it focused on playoff jockeying for positions, the health of players, the status of teams in terms of the mojo they've got going, or would you prefer just to press fast forward and get to game one?
I can't stop. I can't take my eyes away from the car wreck that is the last 2 spots in the East trying to get in.
Right.
What is going on? It doesn't make any sense. No one wants it. I can't wait for that to be over, and then we can move on to playoffs. Also, I can't wait for playoffs because I can't wait to see the West just beat the wheels off each other. Like, the gauntlet that is the West is going to be awesome.
Well, we were talking about Dallas out of nowhere yesterday, and that was our own fault.
They don't get any love.
Yeah, it was our own fault. We're just going through doing exactly what you just said, Brian. We're like, this will be a wild scene. Look at Winnipeg. They're struggling. They got off the schneid last night, but they're probably playing Colorado. And we stumble across Dallas, and we're like, that's a legit monster. Like, the Stars are a legit cup contender, and yet they're kind of lost in the shuffle, largely because of where we are, maybe because they market they play in. But to your point, like that's just one of a handful of teams out west that could do some serious work come the playoffs.
Yeah, probably the market, to be honest with you, because the last few years, and even like when I was playing, going into Dallas and playing that team, was so hard. Like, they play. I mean, they could get a penalty every shift for grabbing you or whacking you. That's an element that I think is so important in the playoffs. They don't. I mean, they get away with it. They're smart. And they've gotten better in the last couple of years. Now, if they get Ottinger back to normal, it doesn't surprise me if they come out of the West. It doesn't at all. They could win the Stanley Cup. The Dallas Stars could win the Stanley Cup. That's how good they are. Doesn't surprise me. It's just, I mean, they're Dallas, so who knows?
Brian, that building you work in, the NHL Network, you ever pass somebody in the hallway and they say, man, the Leafs look a little bit different. They look like they could maybe do something different this year. You ever had that conversation? Has that happened yet? Or is it, I just expect the same old thing from the Leafs?
Well, you know what? I said it like a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago that I don't blame the players. I don't think that, what they have, how they've been assembled is really the right way to do it. Now, they've kind of made me eat my own words because, Marner goes down, and I think it's going to be a really terrible thing. And what it's done is empowered depth scoring, and it's given guys sort of ownership that's taken some pressure off some other guys, which leads to Austin heating up again, scoring goals. I mean, I love what Bertuzzi and Domi have done lately. McMahon and Matthew Knies. Matthew Knies is going to go through his growing pains because he's still a young player, and sometimes it's hard to get minutes when you have a top 6 like they do. But when you have a top 6 that you rely on that heavily, number one, you're not allowing the bottom 6 to do anything. You're not empowering them with any kind of ownership of the team. And you're running those guys into the ground. So if they get stopped in the playoff series, you're calling upon your bottom 6 and your depth. It's not going to do anything. But now they've contributed. They know they can contribute, and they're going to be needed to contribute. So, I mean, they played well in Marner's absence. They've been without, they're probably the best D-man for a little while. He's been injured, but I think he might be coming back. Is it tonight or
I think tomorrow Riley's
again?
playing. Yeah, I think tomorrow.
Yeah, so that's great. The goaltender kind of went down. One of their goaltenders went down and kind of got his head right, and that's not unique this year. That's happened to a few goalies, and then Wall, obviously he had the high ankle sprain. That's takes some time to come back from. So it's kind of looking like they have some depth in goal. Like they have depth scoring. We'll see how the D sorts itself out because they might get exposed a little bit there, but hopefully not, because that'd be an exciting time in Toronto, but for the league too.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned the West and how many good teams are out there. Where do you stand on the East in terms of the depth and the potential? For how many teams do you think could realistically be in a Cup final? Is it 3? Is it 4? Is it 5? Like how deep does it go where you say that's kind of the end in terms of who I think can roll through the East?
So in a Cup final that could win, I think I have 3. I had, and that's sort of that could be changing depending on how Florida rights themselves, and it's going to be tough because Verhaeghe's going to be out a little bit, and Tkachuk is sick, and it seems like that's kind of going through their team a little bit, but I have Florida still. I have Carolina and I have New York as the teams I think can win the Stanley Cup. I think the East is a little more wide open, and I think we don't always get the full picture until the season. It's a hindsight, I guess. But when you see teams like in the East, for example, haven't made the playoffs, is it because they're that bad, or it's because any given night these teams can turn it on and they're that talented, and if they catch lightning in a bottle, they could go on a run. Who knows? Pittsburgh wins tonight. They're in the conversation again. So that's crazy. But to come out of the East, I just think the depth that Carolina and structure they play with for so long. I think Igor playing in New York and the depth that they have after the deadline and how Panarin's played, and then Florida, they can play any way you want. Is why those are my 3 teams that if they won the East, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Now, Tampa has something to say about that, and Toronto will as well, because, again, it's 82 games, and you lose games in October, November, December, you can never get those back. So who's playing well at the time? That could change in a week.
Well, that's the thing, too. And you mentioned Dallas, and, is there any team that out west you think, okay, could maybe make a case for outside of Dallas? I mean, is Colorado, is there... is Winnipeg done enough for you? Is Vancouver get any love? Is Edmonton where is there any team that? So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. We talked about it a little today, and it's like, again, if you started the season in mid-November, everyone's picking Edmonton to win the Cup because their record has been by far the best. Their points percentage is in the mid-700s since Chris Knobloch came on, right? But then you have Vancouver, who I think. They score at a high percentage of their shots. Now, they're going to get penalized for that, or not penalized, but people aren't taking them seriously because of that, or is that their elite talent that they have? If Demko comes back and shuts the door, and these guys can score at will, how can you not? But I think that's why, and they haven't really been there. I think Talk has done unbelievable. I think their high-end skill is ridiculous. So why couldn't they get through? And I don't know. I don't see it. I because of maybe my own bias is they haven't been there. They haven't been through that ringer. Mm-hmm. The other team is Vegas. I still think Vegas comes out of the West.
Really?
I could be crazy. Yeah, I could be nuts, but they might have a goalie controversy now. Thompson's played unbelievable. For a minute there, I was like, if Nashville never loses again, who wants to play them?
Yeah.
The West is really hard to handicap. And you got Colorado, who obviously isn't happy how last year ended, and they won the Cup in the not so distant past. They just won, and Nathan McKinnon looks like no matter what, he's going to get what he wants. So I just can't wait to turn on the West. I can't handicap it. I can't predict it, but if I'm going to say Vegas gets healthy, and then they just stifle everyone.
With Brian Boyle, I don't know how we will look back on that because they just won last year. I
realize.
Right? And the moves they made, I guess you're banking on, that has to be banking on Stone returning, Hurdle returning.
Well, Hurdle skated, I thought I read today or something. He skated.
Yeah, he did.
And he's skating with his teammates. So he's going to try and develop some chemistry in the next couple weeks. Now, is he available to play for them, or is it playoffs? I can't remember.
I think the cap situation's dicey.
Yeah,
they might have baked that into the math. Like, you got to show up game 1.
Playoffs, yeah.
I think he can play.
Oh, he can. He can. They can make the money work.
Yeah, I think he can. I think they're expecting him to play before the end of the season, and I think that's going to be important. And they have 4 or 5 home games. So if he can integrate himself and they get some guys back, I mean, think about how they won, though. No one got near their net. But they get healthy D playing the right way.
Yeah.
They got enough offense. So it's, but we'll see. The West is going to be awesome.
It is. And like as of now, if it starts tonight, if Vegas is healthy, they start in Edmonton, which I can tell you Canadians are not going to be ecstatic about, and people in Edmonton will not be ecstatic about, because if Hurdle's back and Stone comes out flying and Hannafin's settled in and Hill's healthy and playing well, or whoever it's going to be, Logan Thompson, like that will be staggering considering Edmonton started the way they started, but since they've made that coaching change, like you mentioned, Knobloch's got a winning percentage off the charts. If Vegas knocks them out, like it's an if, it's a hypothetical, but could you see like a crazy offseason in Edmonton? Like where do you stand on Edmonton's, what's on the line for them in terms of them having to get it done this year?
Yeah, there's a lot of heat. There's a lot of pressure. And that's the tough thing about the West this year. There's going to be people Stanley Cup picks, and it might be mine, or people picking teams to come out of the West that lose in the first round. Mm-hmm. And it's not because they laid an egg. It's not because anything other than maybe they didn't get a bounce here and there, and that's how good that West is. And for Edmonton, with the contract situation, the Draisaitl and McDavid to a certain point, but they played well, and like Matthias Ekholm has been great, and they've got more depth scoring. They got guys in certain roles. I like Edmonton's chances. I want them to be in it too. Like I like the Leafs to be in it. I think it's so much fun, the buzz around it, seeing those cities going nuts. I don't know how that works network wise in the States, but you want the best teams in it and with the best players in it as long as they can be, right? Like that's what I want to watch. I grew up watching, Detroit play Colorado. I'm a kid from Boston watching Detroit-Colorado series. Every second of it I could watch. I couldn't get enough of it. In the late 90s and 2000s, it was the best. So that's what I want for this generation of young kids watching and young fans watching. You want the best teams.
Well, and those two teams in particular, that rivalry, there's nothing close to it in the modern game. And I'm not sure you can get back there because of the salary cap. They were the best teams in the league by a mile not by a mile, but your Blues were really good. Dallas was really good. Jersey was good in the East. But those two teams were so good. They had so many Hall of Famers, but it was also nasty. Like, what do you remember most is like the hits from behind and the fights and the retribution and Waugh. It does seem, though, that nastiness has been coming back. And I was reading something about Rempe down in New York because ever since his suspension, he hasn't really been playing. I think he's been a healthy scratch the last few games. And they got Jersey. If it's not tonight, it's tomorrow. And I think most people are wondering what Laviolette's going to do there because Jersey wants a piece of him.
What are they going to do, though? Name one guy on Jersey that's going to stand up and do something.
They got McDermott. McDermott wanted him last time, and he ran from him. And I think what is going to be a conundrum here for Laviolette is, do you play him and basically insinuate you got to fight, or do you not play him and you risk Jersey saying, all right, if you're not going to play him, we'll take someone else? Like, well, someone else is going to have to pay a price.
A very smart comment, Hayes. There's the risk.
Yeah, that is a risk.
What do you think Lavi should do there, Brian? What do you think the plan should be?
Well, so he's done a good job with rotating some guys in with more depth. And, I mean, Johnny Brodzinski kept coming out, and then he'd go in and score a goal, and then he'd take him out, and he'd go in and score a goal. So it's kind of like he hasn't played his way out. Do you let it happen organically, or do you worry about, hey, we have bigger fish to fry here with, we want to be playing in June. Look, the kid, it's obvious that sparked a big thing. I think at a certain point, if you want it to keep boiling over, or if you want to try and say maybe next year we'll figure it out, I don't know. I wouldn't risk that. I'm like, let's. Usually, I think if you just face the music and get it done, sort of like what happened with Pittsburgh and Boston with the Matt Cook situation when he hit Mark Savard. There was a conversation under the bleachers with Billy Guerin talking to Zdeno Chara. These guys are like, we're doing this now, and he better fight, or it's going to be a long night for your stars. And Matt Cook answered the bell. He went out, fought Sean Thornton in the first couple shifts, and then it was done. But this could be some build-up. we'll see how it plays out. But I think he's got to go in and answer the bell, especially what's happened to Siegenthaler. The first game, you can kind of say, well, maybe he was just making a play and hitting Bastian, and Siegenthaler fought him. This was different. He took a suspension. He didn't end up fighting. McDermott's there for one reason. Everyone knows it.
Yeah.
That's part of it where you got to kind of own up for it. And for him, I think he has to do it. I think Rempe, if he plays, he has to know that it's time to go.
Yeah.
I have to honor this code, and I have to do what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, if he's in action tomorrow night, and I wouldn't be surprised if he is. I wouldn't be surprised if those type of conversations, I don't know if those happen anymore. I don't know who the equivalent of, was it Jack Hughes and who's Abinajad are talking?
Yeah.
Like, who's talking?
Like the leaders, you mean? It'd be Trouba probably, and I guess
who in Jersey would be
vet?
the grizzled vet that would.
I can't see
have that
Jack
conversation.
Hughes under the bleachers saying he better get his ass out there and fight tonight.
Yeah, probably not.
No,
Probably not. Yeah.
And maybe like Brendan Smith or somebody said this was going to happen.
Yeah.
Two college guys can go down and talk about it, and then let the big boys get out.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably a good play. Always great catching up with you, Brian. We'll do it again soon. Thank you for this.
Awesome. Thanks, fellas.
You got it. Brian Boyle of the NHL Network, former Leaf. Alumni jacket guy.
He is an alumni jacket. He can be in there.
Yeah. But the Rempe scene tomorrow is going to be interesting. Like, I'm pretty sure Jersey, they play Pitt tonight. And then it's at the Garden tomorrow. But Rempe has not been in the lineup much, and I know that's a conversation down there. You put him in understanding, like McDermott's there to fight him. Like McDermott was furious.
And that McDermott's like
tough as nails.
He's got that, we'll call it man strength. Like
Yeah.
he's a big man, where Rempe is tall, but he looks lean and he still hasn't filled out.
But Rempe's fought Reeves, the Laurier.
No,
like he's fought these big boys.
I know.
And if he's in, he's going to have to go.
At
And I
some
think
point-
Rempe will go him. I think he'll fight and understand that.
I just worry at some point it's not going to end well for him.
I hear you.
And that's concerning, because then, now the conversations start again.
Right.
On the other side.
Should this have happened?
Yeah.
And retribution. And I understand that. And that's what I'm sure is making the league feel uneasy. Yet if you're Peter Laviolette and the Rangers and you don't play him, is Jersey going to say, okay, we take that personally? And, like Brian just said, like that's kind of the way it goes. Like if your guy doesn't want to respond, that's fine. But tell Panarin to keep his head up tonight.
Yeah.
You don't want that. Adam Fox, we're going to dump it in his corner and he may not come out. So you figure it out. Like, I know it sounds ridiculous.
It used to be
but
like that, though.
I don't know if it is anymore. You're right. It may not be like that anymore.
Were like that. I remember, now going back to junior, played against this guy named Killer Kaminsky. Kevin Kaminsky. His nickname was Killer.
Killer Kaminsky.
That guy scared the hell out of me,
Yeah,
man.
I was sitting on the bench. Like I can't remember what had happened. I got pulled or something, and we had a brawl after brawl. And I played with a guy named Kelly Enns. And Kelly Enns, God love him, but he wasn't super tough. He could score, but he fought. And his face was on sideways, literally as he was coming off. And Killer Kaminsky leaned over and said, if you put him back on the ice, I'm going to finish him off with my stick. That's ingrained in my mind.
Killer Kaminsky.
Leaned over and said, don't put that guy back on the ice or I'm going to finish him off with my stick, not even my fist.
That's the penal system.
It is, but that
he was
again,
a no-fly zone guy for me. Whenever I saw that guy, somebody told me a myth about him that he took a razor blade to his CCM helmet and put jagged little edges on it, so if anyone punched it, it would screw up their hand.
That's the Bill LaForge stories. You ever remember that?
But
Bill
this Killer
LaForge?
Kaminsky, look at this guy. Imagine this guy. We played the Caps a lot. That guy wheeling around. And he was one of those hitters where it would almost seem like he would jump 3 feet in the air, and if you had a concussion after, just suck on it and chew on that, because that's the way he was going to operate.
Well,
that guy was scary, man.
Wasn't he on Chaser's famous baseball team?
Yes, I was just going to say, he's the Wendell Clark, Kelly Chase School of Baseball and Hockey type of thing. He's from Saskatchewan, I believe.
He's from Church Bridge, Saskatchewan.
And they all hung out in the summer, and I believe there's the Clarks, the Kaminskys, the Melroses, and the Chases all fought each other, fought everybody else.
Who else was in there? There was
there's somebody else in that neighborhood. I can't remember.
It wasn't Cordick.
The Cordicks were from Edmonton,
Okay.
Dan and John.
No, there was someone else that was just How are we forgetting his name? We got to
Kosher.
Kosher. That was it. Joey Kosher.
Yeah,
was the
Joey
other guy.
Kosher. Kosher was another guy.
Kosher was on that team.
Yeah. Those guys were.
Dude, Joey Kosher, man, that guy. Like, everyone talks about Bob Probert, Ty Domi. There is some people out there that thinks Joey Kosher might have been the toughest of them all.
Right.
Like,
there is some rumblings because every tough guy you talk to, they all had their own guy. Like I played with Tony Twist, and Tony Twist was like, that guy was the toughest.
Yeah.
But then you talk to other people, they're like, Tony Twist was the toughest, and then it was Proby, but Kosher, unanimously, everyone talked about his hands. Yeah. He had these monster hands,
cement hands that would just knock your face off.
Oh, he was a scary, scary guy.
Man.
But I think he had a brother too. I think there was like Kosher family, Chase family, like the
Clarks. There were multiple Clarks.
Yeah, Kerry Clark, Wendell, like it just...
Hiller Kaminsky II.
Dude, all no-fly zones. You see those guys on the ice, you got to act like you're still playing in the league and you'll finish your hit on them. Yeah. No elbows up, no talking, no nothing.
Yeah, no thank
you.
Hit
and run for your life. Yeah. That's the only...
Scary
stuff.
That's amazing. That's why Wendell's so great, is that like he'd score 40 in a season.
And then fight those
and
guys.
Have 300 penalty minutes and fight all those guys whenever they wanted.
But I feel like Wendell has told us before, they all had like an unwritten rule, we're not going to fight each other.
I don't think they ever did.
I don't know if they ever fought each other, but I think I remember there were conversations where it's like, you better smarten up or we are going to have to fight type of thing.
Kosher and Wendell, maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We got to look that up.
But I next time we have Wendell on, we'll have to ask that question because I feel like they had like, hey, this is a no-fly zone. We're not going to fight each other because they're all from the same town. But I'm sure they did at some point.
Yeah, maybe in junior or something or in the summer. Yeah. All right, every day we announce a current or former Maple Leaf player, and by Friday you have a 5-pack of players. This week we're giving away tickets to see the Leafs play the Penguins April 8th, plus throwing in a $250 Vanilla Visa prepaid card. Vanilla Visa prepaid cards are available for purchase at Petro Canada. Today's player of the day is Rick Kehoe.
Oh, right-handed shot.
There you go. Rick. I love it. All right, there's your Maple Leaf player of the day. Best bet still to come. LeBron's in town. We'll tee it up next. All right, Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Raptors, Lakers, LeBron will play. Anthony Davis will play. First time in Toronto since 2018 for AD. LeBron's got a long history up here, as we know. Obviously, when he was in Cleveland, even when he was in Miami. But, speaking earlier in the week, maybe this is getting close to the end for LeBron. Are we buying that? Is this close to the end?
Until he announces.
Give me the first question.
All right, you want the first one with Dan?
Yes.
All right, here he is from the LA Times. Here's Dan Woike. How you doing, Dan?
Guys, I too am close to the end in a relative sense. Right?
Okay.
Like, I don't know that I'm going to be doing this for another 21 years as well. So.
Okay.
Dan, let me ask you this. When LeBron shuts it down, do you think that he is going to want and need the tour around the league, the goodbye, farewell tour? Do you think he wants that? I'm saying no.
So he's always been kind of on the fence about this. But, I mean, this is not somebody who's allergic to attention either.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And I do think that is a factor. And I think also one thing about LeBron is he does take into account sometimes, like, what's best, not just for himself, but like what's best for like the league as a whole. And I think he knows that some level of a tour is probably best for the league. Now, do I think it'll be like the Kobe tour where he comes to a town and shoots 25 times, to try to give everybody one last show? I don't think so. I mean, look, this is still a guy playing winning basketball, right? In year 21. It's funny, the other day in Brooklyn, he answered that question about kind of, the clock and whether or not it was running out a little bit on him. We just watched him make 9 threes, and kind of in my thought process was, if you're going to shoot the ball the way you shot the ball this year, does that mean you can play even longer than you thought?
How do they decide
it's going to be up to him. Truly, he will go out on his terms, I believe.
How do they decide when LeBron and AD are playing? Because they've been hovering around mediocrity all year, and then it's like a big game will come up and they don't play, or LeBron will be at a football game. It's been a really weird year from that perspective, where it's like they're dying for wins, and then you see their starting lineup, and it's like they're not playing tonight. How have they gone about that?
I think those two guys, especially this year, have been pretty available. LeBron has this lingering ankle issue that is a real thing, right? Like, he got treatment on it over the All-Star break. This is going to be what the last chapter of his career looks like in this, where it's sort of, the wear and tear of the season is going to force him to miss games that typically would have played. Like, this road trip started in Milwaukee, right? And LeBron didn't play. I mean, that was a huge game for this team. But they made the choice for him not to play in that game. He played in Memphis. They gave him an extra day of rest. I think that's sort of the strategery, I guess, for lack of a better word, on this, right? So, stunned if he doesn't play tomorrow, I wouldn't be. I think, excuse me, that's a back-to-back. It's in Washington. They've got a very important home back-to-back on Saturday and Sunday against Cleveland and Minnesota. And, he's talked about this, like, you look at it and he knows he can't throw his fastball every night. Now, the injuries that the Lakers have dealt with this season, weirdly enough, have been like basically through players 4 through 7. And it's really caused them to shuffle in and out a lot of different lineups. I say this sincerely at the start of the year. I didn't think Jared Vanderbilt would matter this much, and it's mattered. But over the last, month and a half, 2 months, this has been a really good basketball team, guys. Like, I think 17-6 in the last 23, one of the best offenses in the league. They've found a rhythm. They have a style of play. And, it's hard to cast a ton of dispersion. I mean, they're going to probably finish the season around 10 games over 500, right? Like, I mean, that's by Lakers standards over the last, 15 years. That's a wild success.
With Dan Woike of the LA Times, Lakers Raptors tonight. You mentioned, if you're in Washington tomorrow, probably doesn't play, and, the Wizards is so bad. I think from a Raptor perspective, there's some shock that they're playing tonight because the Raptors have lost 13 in a row.
Yeah.
And, this is the nervous energy in the city right now. I know a few people that are down at the game, and of course you wait for the sked to come out, you wait for tickets to be available, you pick them up. It's the Lakers, it's LeBron. He's got a long history in Toronto that you're aware of, Dan. Most people, if you go to a lot of games, you've probably seen him play live. It's an incredible spectacle. But, it was just announced in the last hour or so, like he's definitively playing. Have you been in the building when it was announced he wasn't playing, like at the last minute? And if so, can you describe what the vibe is like in there when you find out LeBron's not playing?
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing. Usually, when he has been downgraded, it's usually been with, 24 hours of notice, generally speaking. I know. But, look, I mean, tell that to the people who paid a premium on the tickets a month ago, right? Like, I mean, it is just sort of, that's sort of the bet that you're making when you buy a Lakers ticket right now. And it's funny, you guys mentioned from the fan standpoint. I think about it very similarly through, the executives' standpoint as they try to plot the future for this team. You have a top 10, top 15 player currently in the league, right? Certainly worth a max salary, who is going to be 40 years old next season, who's played 21 seasons in your league. And, it's unprecedented. How do you plan for that? How do you try to, the way that I've framed it a lot in my writing and when I've done appearances and stuff like that is, they have maybe the most win now player of all time on their team. And LeBron James, right? There's never really been, I guess maybe Tom Brady in Tampa Bay is close, but that's a different sport. And you could protect your quarterback physically in ways that you can't protect, a high usage basketball player. You never know, when is the step where, it's funny, my father has this theory. He calls it the garage door theory. And this was as kids, we would always try to open the garage door to get in and out of the house, and it would drive him crazy because he thought the mechanical garage door had only a fixed number of opens and closes.
Yeah.
So why waste them?
Yeah.
Right? Whatever the number is, it's only going to open and close 10,000 times, and then it's going to stop working.
Right.
We don't know what LeBron's garage door number is. We don't know. Seemingly you would think his body has only X amount of drives, only X amount of games, only X amount of minutes. And we don't know when he's going to hit that point. The Lakers don't know when he's going to hit that point. I think you just kind of live with the uncertainty of it as an organization. And if you're a fan buying tickets, like that's just part of the risk of seeing a guy, do this 21 years. I mean, like we've never seen a guy play this long, this good. It's never happened before in basketball.
No, it's unprecedented. And really in sports history, it's him and Brady, like that are in that category where you're talking about guys who are arguably the greatest players in the history of their respective sports, doing it that late in their career.
Maybe Serena. Yeah,
right.
It's hard. It is it's rarefied air, as they would say, right? Like it is. It's wild, and when you cover him, it's strange because like you don't want to you don't want to puff out your chest too much. I mean, like that's not the most interesting writing in the world, right? Like he's really good. Like that's not a great sentence. But there are a lot of times when you write about this team where it like comes down to him just being really good.
Well, that's
and doing things that we've never seen before,
right?
And coming up with new ways to say that. Yeah.
And what's interesting is, they're on a crash course here in the play-in to play Golden State, and Steph is years younger than him, but not 10 years younger than him. Like Steph's not far behind him in terms of a win now
4 years
window. Yeah, he's 4 years younger, and it's like, okay, Golden State, they can't blow it up and rebuild. Maybe they got a little bit more time. Yet it's understood if and when Golden State needs, a shot, needs a play, needs a big night, needs a win, it's going through Steph. Is that the case with the Lakers and LeBron, or is it understood that Anthony Davis has to do the heaviest lifting at the heaviest moments? Like who is relied upon more in the big moments?
I mean, I still think it's LeBron as sort of option A, but options B, C, and D are better now than they've been in the past. And I would remind everybody of last year's playoffs when, in game one of the playoffs, it wasn't LeBron James in the fourth quarter that took over a game. It was Austin Reeves, and LeBron got out of the way. And you know what I mean? Like they have done that. Like they've done it with D'Angelo Russell at times this year. I look, if it's a one possession at the end of a game 7, you're going to put the ball in LeBron James' hands, right? Like there's no question about that. But I do think sort of along the way when they need buckets, when they need to stop runs, when they've needed to win games this year, they've gotten it from other people. D'Angelo Russell hit a game winner against Milwaukee. Austin Reeves hit game winners against Boston, hit a massive shot to start this road trip against the Bucks. Anthony Davis had an awesome game in Milwaukee after kind of a slow start. They are a little more balanced, and I think one of the things about sort of LeBron's legacy is that, I mean, he is a guy who, will make the right play. Like he's not calling his own number out of selfishness necessarily. He's doing it because he thinks it's the highest percentage possible play. He got killed for this early in his career, right? Where late game situations, he would drive and pass the ball out to a shooter or something like that. He wouldn't take the shot. He would make the right pass. I don't think that's changed. I think that's the way he operates. But the right basketball play, a lot of times, guys, is let LeBron shoot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes a lot of sense, and I think we'll see it a lot tonight.
He's only scored. Yeah, I was going to say he's only scored more points than anyone else.
Right, exactly.
Sometimes you're like, sometimes do more of that.
Every week he seems to establish some new thing we've never seen before. I mean, that's the nature of LeBron and his resume. He is Dan Woike of the LA Times. Enjoy your time up here in Toronto. Enjoy the game tonight. Thank you for doing this, Dan.
Thanks for having me, guys. Talk to you soon.
You got it. Dan Woike of the LA Times.
I like Dan.
Yeah, he's great, man.
Him too.
He's a great guy.
I don't want to ask if he felt that Jordan,
the Jordan, LeBron stuff. Yeah, I mean, listen, he's got an up close and personal. Like, that would be a wild gig to cover a living legend.
Right.
It'd be like covering a prime minister or a president or, there's, it's obviously different sports context. But if, LeBron's your beat, Brady's your beat, McDavid, Mahomes.
But you're trying to find different things every day with the same message. Yeah, this guy was great last night. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
great
exactly.
His whole career.
What else you got?
Like how many different angles could you spin on that? It's
right.
Crazy. It's almost difficult as opposed to a bunch of guys that stink to join on all the time where it writes itself.
Well, we used to say all the time as a joke when Chicago was winning, OverDrive Chicago. What do they talk about?
Another win last night.
Yeah, another win.
After the next round.
Yeah,
10 in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just...
Like, I remember being in Boston for the first round in 2013. We were down there for game 1 and 2 or game 1. Anyway, I was speaking with somebody, and they said generally in Boston, and this was when the Pats were at their height, the Red Sox had won multiple World Series, Garnett and Pierce and Allen had just done their thing, and the Bruins had won the Cup in 2009, I guess, or 2010.
Yeah.
The guy said, usually people around here start to pay attention in the second round. Like, I remember him saying that. And I'm like, do you know how insulting that is?
Attention.
Literally. He's like, yeah, well, probably the Bruins will really it'll really pick up here in the second round. I'm like, so what? You're just looking past the Leafs? Or is that a shot at the Leafs? Or is it just
it's
a testament to the amount of winning there where it's like, oh, the first round is nothing in Boston. It's an extension of the regular season. Yeah. You're a Boston sports team in the late 2000s, early 2010s. The first round is a formality.
Yeah. But that's kind of what is expected from them, and that's all they know in that pocket of time.
Sickening to think that existed, but amazing if you're from Boston.
Well, yeah, you've been treated to royalty for a decade or more, from Brady and you name it, the Bruins, all of that. But there will be times, as the Pats are going through right now, the Pats are struggling.
Absolutely.
Right? There'll be down
the Sox are struggling.
Sox are struggling.
Celtics aren't, Bruins aren't.
Yeah.
Like, there's always 18. Like, I think the Celtics are going to make it to an NBA final. I think. I mean, there's no guarantees, but they're the clear-cut top seed in the East. Bruins could. I mean, Bruins, of course, could roll through the East.
Well, the Bruins have something to prove. I was thinking about that. Nobody's brought Boston's name up recently.
Even Boyle.
I was just going to say, Brian Boyle did.
Yeah, he had Rangers, Carolina, and Florida. And then he mentioned Tampa and Toronto. He didn't even get to Boston, which is probably just a natural slip.
I know, but they're a team. They won they had the greatest regular season last year and lost in the first round.
But when we talk to as many people as we do, you never hear a bunch of people say, I really think it's Boston's year, where they're easily in that mix.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
but nobody really says it.
You have to give them respect. But again, until they go out and do it, because all we know of them recently is that they pissed away a 3-1 lead against Florida last year. They were up 3-1.
They could easily come back and just say, you know what, we're making amends for last year. It would be insane doing that.
But that's what I'm saying too. Is Tampa got embarrassed by Columbus, and then the next year they were like, we're not doing that again.
Won 2 cups in a row. Went to 3 cup finals in a row.
But nobody's mentioned Boston.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It's just
it's
food for thought.
They're a really good team. Really good team. That LSU-Iowa game last night, Caitlin Clark went off, and Iowa ended up running away with it. It was a really good first half. ESPN, I guess reports are coming out, 12.3 million viewers.
That's crazy.
That's a monster rating.
Massive number.
Think about what she's going to do for the WNBA, man. She's unbelievable.
She is.
She's like Larry Bird out there. I think you mentioned that yesterday. It's just how better she makes everybody and how talented she is. And she's got that thing where it's just not about talent. She has like this maniacal desire to win. Mm-hmm. Like, she's just got it all. She's amazing.
She is a complete package. I watched an interview. Did Ice Cube offer her 5 sheets?
The big 3, which I did not even know was still going.
Yeah.
Me neither.
Like, it's still going, I guess.
It's in Vegas. Isn't it a league in Vegas, though?
It's a 3-on-3 league compiled.
For 3 weeks of the year.
Yeah, it's like a really short period of time, and it's all ex-NBA players.
Yeah.
And, yes, the report, I think Ice Cube tweeted it out. Like, yes, I have offered Caitlin Clark $5 million to come play.
Man, oh, man.
Like, why would you not take that and then go to the NBA? Like, her NIL deals at Iowa are probably, it's crazy the money she's probably making right now anyway.
Nike, like, isn't she a Nike athlete?
Yeah, she's already got a lot of money in the bank, and when she goes to the WNBA, but their salary structure is what it is.
Right.
But now still, she could raise all the boats up, and she'll make a fortune in endorsements because these numbers are proving that. Like, she is a celebrity.
Yes.
Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, the same thing with LSU. Yeah, Caitlin Clark is now a household name. And that's going to.
If I was Nike, I'd give her the little LeBron, Kobe, Jordan treatment where she would be everywhere.
Well,
man.
It's an interesting idea of launching like a women's line of sport. But I think you don't want to like pigeonhole yourself just to men or just to women.
Right.
Right. Like you want to be able.
Fans on
just
by
the Clark line could be like that'll be a sign of things like exploding and. When you see, if there's a Caitlin Clark shoe and it's doing massive numbers.
Right.
That'll be a real testament to what she's already accomplished and where she could be going.
Yeah.
Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel, still to come. Lakers Raptors coming up. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, today's Best Bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Not playing the Raptor-Laker game tonight, but the Lakers on FanDuel, I believe, 13.5-point favorites.
Great number.
Yeah, and the Lakers have been better recently. Dan was just pointing that out, but they still are ninth in the West.
And we know what 13.5 means.
Could be by 20. Could be by 25. Oof. All right, I'm on Vegas money line tonight against Vancouver at home. Vegas is starting to get going here. This would be terrifying if I'm Edmonton.
Boy.
Terrifying if they start cooking and get healthy. You got to play Vegas in the first round. Come on. But I'm on Vegas tonight money line. I like the over Pitt jersey tonight. And Sabres money line against the Caps. The Sabres have been a lot better the last month and a half. Washington, someone's got to get in.
Right.
But it doesn't feel like Philly, Washington, or Detroit really want to. So Buffalo, I'll take it, man. There's my parlay. You're getting big plus money on that. Today's Best Bets powered by FanDuel. FanDuel's goal in the first 10 minutes is the most electric bet in hockey and can be included in same-game parlays on any NHL game. Please play responsibly, 19 plus, and physically located in Ontario. Leafs, Lightning tomorrow night. Jays, how many hits tonight?
Oof.
Double digits? Doesn't seem
5.
Bichette's back. Bo's back. Tonight.
7.
5 men.
I'm saying 7. 7 hits.
Yeah, I'll say it's Valdez on the mound.
7 hits.
4.
You know what I'm smelling? The Rock is smelling something awful.
All right, thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web, we appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at...
Come rain, come snow, we will jog together. 4 p.m.
We'll chat then.